On today's show, we're remembering Ozzy. We have a brand new interview with Bob Daisley. We hear cool stories from industry experts that have worked with Oz throughout the years, and we share our personal concert memories. All that and more as Metal Mayhem ROC remembers the Prince of Darkness. Well, it's a tough week here in the world of rock and metal as the passing of Ozzy Osbourne cut all of us very deep. Metal Walt, Ozzy, you grew up with him. I grew up with him. How'd this hit you, man?
It's been tough, but at the same token, John, I just happy that I was out there for all those tours, the Ozfest, the solo shows, the Sabbath shows, meeting him in person at a record store signing, and you can't take away those memories. And the biggest thing is bonding with your friends and meeting fans. That's what you're always going to remember. And we have the music.
That's true. That's true. You know, coming off the heels of the Back to the Beginning concert a few weeks ago, we knew Ozzy wasn't well, but we didn't think he'd pass this quick. So it comes as a shock, but it's not that much of a shock. It still hits hard. So what we're doing today, we put together a fun show. It's our way of giving respect to Ozzy. Metal Walt had a chance to reconnect with our friend Bob Daisley. We got an interview with Bob that's coming up right off the start. I put together a couple Rochester, New York centric Ozzy connections. We have the owner of the House of Guitars, Armen Shaw, talking about the three Ozzy band in-store appearances that he's done throughout his career. We have Marty Duda from the After Hours TV show that the Blizzard of Oz and Randy Rhoads was on. And then we get the whole Metal Mayhem ROC crew together, some fans, and we share stories and memories from seeing Ozzy throughout his career, Sabbath too, all those Ozfests. So that's come up throughout the show. But Metal Walt, let's start off your interview with Bob Daisley. How'd this go? What kind of spirits was Bob in?
Bob was in, I would say, a reflective state, and he was very appreciative that I invited him on. I think he needed this just as much as we needed it. And you know what? He talks a lot more about his personal relationship with Ozzy. Of course, there's the music and the memories that they made and the legacy forever. But this was him talking about his friendship with the man he started an iconic band with. It was very touching. So today we welcome back to the show a dear friend, original Ozzy Osbourne bassist Bob Daisley. You know, off the bat, how are you feeling today?
Oh, it's a very sad occasion. You know, it's something like that happens, and all the memories come flooding back of the good times, of the fun, of the creativity. It bowled me over, to be honest. Yesterday, it was very sad, and everything else pales, in comparison to that event. I suppose we'd had warnings that it was coming. I didn't expect it so soon after the farewell concert. But and it feels weird for me to be the last man standing now that Lee and Randy and Ozzy are all over the other side, and I'm still here. It's just,
yeah,
but it was a sad occasion. I have to, I was sort of overcome by memories, but all fond ones. You know, all the nice times, the laughter, the jokes, the nice times we had together, the creativity we had together, regardless of what lineup it was, you know, whether it was Zach, whether it was Jakey Lee, whether it was Lee, Tommy Aldrich, Randy, whatever. Ozzy and I did a lot of stuff together, and it was destined. It was meant to happen. So it's it's a sad occasion.
Yeah, you know, Bob, in thinking about let's say your personal relationship with him through all those years of working, I mean, reflecting back, how would you summarize it? Like, especially outside of the music, right? Like, you made beautiful music together, but thinking about like the person you were, the person he was, how would you describe that?
Well, I think that's why so much of the music was creative and people relate to it and that because there was love in it. We had sometimes it was a love-hate relationship. There was always love there. I missed him, he missed me. Sharon told me that he missed me, and when we weren't together. But I think that was the magic element in all of it. That we had a bonding, especially from the early days. As soon as we began to work together, it just clicked. It was you could feel it. It was nice. It was right. And I think that comes out in the music. So apart from the work side and all the rest of it, I think the expression of our enjoyment comes out in that music, and we were always on the same page as far agreeing in the music, the style of music, what we wanted to say, what we wanted to do, and it was a blend of that, and it was always enjoyable.
Yeah, Bob, being, let's say, a guy like me as a fan, right? And the public, like me, we always saw a certain side of Ozzy. He was either the crazy Ozzy, trying to, doing the antics just to get attention. And of course he had the whole, Prince of Darkness image in a sense, but you know what? I think deep down inside, he was a bit of a goofball, like maybe, trying to get, he was a funny man, right? And I can only imagine what things must have been like when the cameras were off. He looked like a real prankster, right? So, take us back to those days. Let's say what would happen in between the serious stuff.
Well, he the Prince of Darkness. He used to call himself the Prince of Daftness because he was daft. It was always funny, and we were both daft. It was like there were always jokes flying about there, whether it was like the telling of a joke or a silly situation, or it was that the humor element was so important. It was so a part of who we were and what we were doing, and that was a huge important part of the whole relationship. And I think that the fun element and the enjoyment that we were having came out in the music, and I think that's a lot of what people relate to, and that will outlive all of us. The music. I think there's a certain degree of or part of the music that is timeless, that will outlive us all. It's and that's why, because we enjoyed what we did, we had fun with what we did, and we were liking each other as we were doing it, and it was that came out in the music, and that's I think that's what people relate to. As far as obviously the songs were good, people relate to lyrics, people relate to playing, people like what people did drum wise, solo wise, guitar wise, whatever. But the environment in which it was recorded was always a happy, humorous, enjoyable one. And that comes out as an important element of the music, an important dimension of the music that can be subtle, but it's definitely there.
It's so funny, and that's so true, Bob, because you think about, all the different occasions you were in the band and then maybe stepped away from touring and came back in to help, through the different guitar players and coming back towards the No More Tears period. But, even today, just listening to Sirius XM in the US on Ozzy's Boneyard station, they played a live concert from, I think it was around 2001 from Japan. And, of course, there was some new material from that time, but also all the classics were there. And, for somebody like me, a fan, you've heard these songs so many times before that in a sense, they almost become not exciting anymore, and not in a bad way, but you just heard them so many times. But then a moment like this happens today and you go, oh, wow, Flying High again. And I Don't Know, and Suicide Solution, and, Mr. Crowley. And you're like, my God, the material. And then my memory goes back and says, where was I at the time I saw that first Ozzy show? And then I think of, wow, we talked to Bob, and Bob was there from the beginning. So, maybe can you think of any one moment, let's say whether it was in the studio or on tour, or maybe just hanging out with Ozzy, that really captures who he was? Any funny stories you can think of that maybe you haven't shared?
I don't know. You probably have to read my book. Offhand, I can't think. But like you were just saying, the songs, when you hear them and you hear them and you hear them, they become a little bit sort of. It's a bit like taking things for granted.
Yeah.
And well, there it is. There's another. It's another. But when a part of it, or a lot of it now, has ceased to be, like Lee's gone, Randy's gone, Ozzy's gone. There is no more of that, and you tend to get to appreciate it on another dimension of what it means and what it was. And I tell you, I feel very, very fortunate and privileged to have been a part of something that's it became so iconic and so important to people, and it couldn't have happened the way it did and had that same result if any one of the elements had been changed. If it hadn't been Ozzy, or if it hadn't been Randy, or if it hadn't been Lee, or if it hadn't been me, I don't think it would have been like it turned out. And it was very special. I remember sitting in the control room as we were mixing that very first album, and we were all sort of looking at each other and thinking that there's something special going on here, and there was. It was. Yeah, it's. There are many funny stories, many good times, great memories.
Yeah.
It became a huge part of my life. It wasn't just music. It wasn't just a job, and it wasn't just come in and do an album. There became a real integral part of your life, sort of thing, and that will remain. And the legacy that we've all left, I suppose, is I don't know, it's like bigger than us.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
We were talking today, a bunch the Metal Mayhem ROC staffers, and we had some friends come on the show, Bob, and it was amazing that over the span of, like, I'm 55, but there's a couple of guys older than me, some guys younger than me, but we all had these amazing stories of Ozzy, and most of them were related around concerts. And thinking back to the one guy on our show who was there in '81 and was able to see a show in Rochester, New York, and then up to somebody like me who was out there every summer for the Ozfests, and whether it was Ozzy's band or Sabbath, and the annual pilgrimages to the shows. And then when the Sabbath came back with 13. So, like you say, it was like the memories are made with the music, but it becomes how it relates to what you do with it and your fans and your friends, and, how it creates a lifetime of memories for you go forward. And that's how you can never forget what happens, despite Ozzy maybe physically passing on.
Yes, yeah. I can remember like it was yesterday. It was just Ozzy and Randy and myself to start with when we were auditioning drummers, and we were writing the material, and we lived in a place down in Monmouth, which is on the Welsh border, the border between Wales and England. And just some of the daftness and silly things we got up to, but we always had a laugh. It was always enjoyable, and it was Ozzy was sometimes in a dark spot because of it was hard for him to go through the divorce from Black Sabbath. It hurt him a lot, and he was hurting at that time, and we were helping him get over that. And I think by doing what we did, it really did rescue him. And I think all of us needed rescuing, and we all rescued each other.
Yeah. Was there any serious sides of Ozzy? I mean, again, like you say, I mean, he had his demons with addiction. I don't know if there was, mental health struggles there as well. But like you said, just the divorce from Sabbath. But again, we always saw him as the silly guy making pranks. But were there any vulnerable moments or times in your relationship where, Ozzy was just that kind of broken down human that you would see? Because we never saw it in the camera, right?
Well, the thing about Ozzy, and I think that's what a lot of the audiences around the world and over the years have related to, is Ozzy was really just a working class guy, and
Yeah.
he wasn't like your typical rock star type person. He was a working class hero, and that was a big part of his attraction. I think he's and he had a very unique sounding voice. I mean,
Hmm.
technically, you wouldn't call Ozzy a great singer, but he was perfect for the band and perfect for Black Sabbath and perfect for us. It's you could put a technically better singer in, and it just would not do what he did. It's like replacing Ringo with a virtuoso drummer in the Beatles, and probably ruin it. Uh, uh, um, but yeah, well, Ozzy did. He was a vulnerable human being sometimes, and he had his I suppose demons and worries and fears and all of it, like everybody else does.
Yeah. Bob, you talk about the prolific singers, right? And I think of one of my favorite singers of all time is the late great Ronnie James Dio. I mean, he
Yeah.
could sing better than anybody in the world. Yet Ozzy on stage was the consummate front man, running around the stage, prancing, throwing buckets of water over his head. I mean, just getting the crowd to the right place. And I think that's what made him so unique. You're right. It wasn't that he had maybe the technical skills of a Ronnie James Dio or a Rob Halford or a Bruce Dickinson, but boy, oh boy, there was nobody like him. And you never walked out of an Ozzy show saying, wow, that wasn't entertaining. It's exactly
Well,
what you got.
that's right. Ozzy was larger than life. He was a larger than life character. Uh, he was a real character, and he had plenty of character and personality in his being. And that's something you can't learn. You've got to get that from just being who you are and what you've experienced in life, and that's what he was. I knew him well, and I was very close to Ozzy, and it's a sad day for me. Let me tell you.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry for all of our losses, but especially for you. But Bob, at the top of the discussion, you mentioned something that's I think important here. Is you said Sharon told you on several occasions that Ozzy missed you, right? So, and you guys both went through a lot, right? There was a lot of
Yeah.
creative triumphs, battles, legal issues, reconciliations. But looking back, do you think there was that mutual respect that endured the test of time, despite some of those ups and downs in the business?
Yes, I think if either one of us had been like really put on the mat and made to stare at what we'd achieved and what was the most important things, I think either of us would have said the same thing, that we'd come up with some stuff that affected people, got to people, and affected people's lives in a positive way. And it was something for us to be proud of, apart from all the other stuff that went down, whether it was legal issues or credit issues or payment issues or whatever. That's all by the by now. It's uh, yeah.
Well, Bob, listen, I'm glad you're still around and that you can continue this legacy. And yes, it is sad
Thank
that
you.
you're the only remaining living member of the original band, but that's okay because we call you a friend and we love to talk to you. So I do appreciate your time today, Bob. You've been an important part of Ozzy's legacy, and you will always, for the test of time, continue that. So I thank you for your time today. And I promise that we will get back on later this year and we will do a proper part two to talk about all those other things we didn't get a chance to do the first time around.
Sure, okay, yeah. And it's nice for me to be able to do this. It's therapeutic and cathartic to be able to speak like this and voice my feelings. It's yeah, it's a sensitive time, and it was a big part of my life. So yeah, it wasn't always a bed of roses, but the main issues are all positive ones.
Exactly. Well, Bob, this has been fantastic, and I really appreciate you freed up your schedule to speak to us today. And I thank you so much, and all the strength to you to get through this tough period. And we will speak to you again down the line. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, my pleasure. Let's do that. You take care, and thanks a lot, and thanks to all the listeners. Love you all.
All right, this next clip we have an interview with Marty Duda. Marty was the TV producer that put together the show After Hours. You may remember it. It's the from 1981, Ozzy and the Blizzard of Oz in the studio with Randy Rhoads. A lot of this footage was used in that tribute album, the Ozzy tribute album, when he did the videos. It's really the only good footage of Randy playing live. Well, I catch up with Marty again, and he shares what it was the passing of Ozzy, what it meant to him. Now, Marty's down in New Zealand. Talk about time difference. So when we taped this the other day, he was just explaining that, he got a phone call in the middle of the morning about Ozzy passing, and it just really, really took him. So check this out. It's a good one. This is Marty Duda from After Hours. Well, we're continuing our observance of the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, and we have our old friend Marty Duda from from formerly Rochester, New York. He was the producer behind the After Hours Ozzy Osbourne show, 1981, I believe it was. Marty, welcome back to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
Sad times here. Ozzy finally succumbed to Parkinson's and the heavy rock and roll lifestyle. Let's share some thoughts on Ozzy and the passing. How's it hitting you?
Pretty hard. I mean, let's face it. I think everyone has their first time story when they heard Black Sabbath. For me, I was going to Boy Scout camp up in Massaweepie at the Adirondacks, and it must have been just when Paranoid came out. Up until that time, I was listening to pop music. My favorite band was Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, but don't tell anybody. And then somebody had a cassette of Paranoid that had just come out, and we played that cassette for like the full 2 weeks that we were in the Adirondacks. And I went home. I was a changed individual. I was probably 15 or so.
Well, we were separated by 10 years, but I was like 13, 14, and my first tape was Paranoid. And
there you go.
That's when I found out fairies do wear boots, and there is an electric funeral. But
yeah, exactly.
Quickly, let's cover you did the After Hours, and that seems to be the video holy grail of the Ozzy Randy Rhoads era.
I believe it's the only one that features Randy actually playing, and it's good quality. So we got lucky.
Yeah. What's been the outpour in these years, in the 4 years since we spoke regarding the 40-year anniversary? You probably get inundated all the time for your knowledge and your experience. Where does this stand?
Oh, it's right. Well, you're right. Every time a rock star dies, I get lots of calls here in New Zealand. Brian Wilson, Sly Stone, you name it. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So this is the world we live in now, apparently.
And why is that? Excuse me, Marty. Why is that? I can understand Ozzy, but why Sly Stone? Why?
I've worked in several radio stations here in Auckland and in New Zealand, and so I've become known as this old guy who knows all the old rock star stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm the go-to guy for television and radio. That's very strange. Yeah, but Ozzy, it's a mammoth loss, and of course we all watched him, just 3 weeks ago. And, good on him for doing what he did. He couldn't even stand up, and, he did the best he could. And it was a beautiful thing for fans and him alike. So I'm glad that he got that under his proverbial belt before he went off into the great unknown. But yeah, it seems like you couldn't write a better script, actually. I mean,
You're right. It was just right under the wire. And, Marty, when I was watching that, and it was sort of coincidental because we were celebrating the 40 years of Live Aid, and a lot of the Live Aid and that Back to the Beginning, there's a lot of parallels there. And
yeah.
I paid for the stream and I watched that throughout the day. And I thought I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed what was your take on Back to the Beginning?
Well, the first thing, I didn't watch it in real time, but I was getting segments free TikTok and all that stuff. And the thing that really got my attention was the Jack Black clip of Mr. Crowley, because it was a parody of my clip that I'd done at Channel 31 Studios.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that was even a thing, that many people were aware of the clip. So my mind was completely blown once more. And I listened to the whole thing in bits and pieces as we tend to do here. And yeah, but I couldn't believe that for the parody clip, they pretty much recreated the Channel 31 studio exactly the way I remember it.
Yeah, how was the continuity in the Jack Black version? Because I thought it was pretty good.
It was pretty good. I mean, they added a few bits. They didn't do it shot by shot, but they nailed the vibe perfectly, I think.
Got really close on the keyboards.
Yeah, well, see, now that's because and the shot of mine is a similar shot. I was told not to shoot the face of the keyboard player because the band didn't like him. Was it Don Harry?
It wasn't Don. I think it was Don Cost. It was someone else, and it's come out after our interview. All the serious Ozzy, they're the keyboard warriors. Yeah. So what has been the reaction worldwide of that episode? You must have heard from every corner of the world, and just daily. I would imagine daily you hear from people.
Not really. I'm down in New Zealand. Nobody knows I'm down here, I don't think. I hear occasionally, not daily, but it's very nice because people are blown away and they love to see the thing. And, and like I said, it's the only it's all about Randy Rhoads up until now, until Ozzy passed, because it was just shot, months before Randy died. So, that was the major thing. And what I remember most, of course, is just being in the studio and making that thing and putting it all together. It was nuts because I was working at WCMF, so we simulcast, and then I just started working at Channel 31. They just started a year previous to that going on the air, so I happened to be in both places at the same time, and it seemed like, well, let's make a TV show and put it on the radio. That's what we did.
When Tribute came out, did you own the rights to all that? Did the Osbourne camp get
I did originally, but I sold them to Ozzy and Sharon, actually. Yeah. And back then, it wasn't big money now, but it was for me back then. And of course, who knew, 50 years later that YouTube would be happening and all that stuff. So a lot of the versions that are online now have Ozzy's vocals fixed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he was a little shaky. but I've got the originals sitting around here somewhere, and there's some originals online. Yeah,
that's awesome. So you've never heard anything from the Osbourne camp after that? Why would you? Because you sold the rights and you gave it to them.
Right.
Ever meet up with Ozzy again since then, or after that session?
I saw Black Sabbath where they were here maybe 10 years ago. With the other drummer, and it was a fantastic show. I mean, but I didn't catch up to him. No, I doubt he remembered me from the day, let alone 50 years later or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He was in a constant fog the whole time. So, he just did whatever, wherever he was pointed, that's where he went.
That's true. Marty, is there one thing about Ozzy that you could share with us that maybe people don't realize, a positive thing about him that you remember?
Well, he's just a nice guy. I got the feeling, he wasn't the Prince of Darkness, although it's a good title, and why not wear it if you got it? But he just seemed like a nice guy shuffling around, very much more like the Ozzy that you saw on the TV show. Even back then in '81, he was a friendly guy. He He was just doing his best. He was nice to everybody, and he didn't have to be. He was a big rock star at the time, but he was a pretty cool guy. Yeah. It's a big loss. I mean, and I mean, let's face it. It's a wonder that Ozzy made it as long as he did with the lifestyle that he led. But that's what rock and roll is all about. And God bless him. I mean, he changed people's lives. There's no question about it. And
like
he was a nice guy while he was doing it. And the records are still there. So turn them up and
true.
turn them on.
And like you said, what an exit.
Yep.
What an exit. All right, again, Marty Duda, he was the man behind After Hours, the original Ozzy and Blizzard of Oz in the studio, Rochester, New York, in April of 1981. Marty, congratulations on everything you're doing down there, being the ambassador to all old rockers. And we appreciate you starting your day off with us today.
My pleasure.
This next segment, we feature an interview with Armen Shaw. Armen is the president and owner of the Rochester legendary music store, the House of Guitars. We refer to it as the Hog. And through the years, many bands, when they come into the Rochester area, will go up to the Hog and either buy instruments or do in-store appearances. Well, Ozzy's been there 3 times. Once during the Rhoads era, once with Jakey Lee when they came with Motley Crue, and that was a famous situation. And then once with Zakk Wylde during No Rust for the Wicked. Well, Armen talks about those situations, shares stories about those in-stores, and shares anecdotes with his relationship with Ozzy. It's really cool. We feature a lot of pictures of those events and just, again, a lot of cool fly-on-the-wall stories. So if you're not familiar with the House of Guitars, get on the internet, check it out. If you are familiar with it, thank God that you've been there and you're able to go there. So let's take a peek at this. Well, we're in the middle of summer, and we had a loss in the heavy metal world yesterday. Ozzy Osbourne succumbed to the effects of Parkinson's disease in 76 years of being a rocker. We have on the show today to share his memories, Armen Shaw, president of the great House of Guitars up here in Rochester, New York. Armen, thank you for taking the time today. Think you've been getting inundated with requests. How are you, man?
Very good, my friend.
Good. So the Great House of Guitars, the show is Metal Mayhem ROC. We're global, but I'm right here in Rochester. I grew up in Rochester. I live in Rochester. So that's why we have the ROC here. Very proud of my roots. The House of Guitars, world renowned. Tell us about Ozzy's relationship with the great House of Guitars.
He did 3 in-stores at the House of Guitars, and the first one was with Randy Rhoads and the whole band. And then the second one is at the same time as Motley Crue. Ozzy was in the front building on the front stage, and then Motley Crue was in the back building where the CDs and records are. And then Carmen Appice was Ozzy's drummer, and he taught a master class to drummers on the second floor. He was from Cactus and Vanilla Fudge and Jeff Beck, but Ozzy hired him for the drumming on that tour. And then the last one, Ozzy came again as when Zakk Wylde was his guitar player. But I remember on the first one, Ozzy was acting kind of nervous and shaky. And then I asked him about it, and he said, well, he was being yelled at by the venue he just came from because someone sent a bunch of pigeons to the venue, and he thought Ozzy had something to do with it, but they all arrived dead in the cages. They were white doves, not pigeons, white doves. And Ozzy kept getting yelled at about it. And then when he got here, he said, I'm a little nervous with the people so close to me. And I said, well, they're used to doing in-stores. They're going to stand in front of you and they'll put down 2 albums or 8 albums, and you sign what you want. If you want to sign one, do it. Want to sign them all, do it. And if they ask you if they want to take a picture, I said, well, just tell them to go right behind you and don't even stand up because then you'd block them. So the whole band sitting, and them and their friends are all standing behind the band, and they get the perfect picture as their friend shoots it, Then we move them along to keep it going because it's going down one street to the Irondequoit Plaza, the line, and the other way, it's going all the way down to this tavern down on Titus Avenue. And we have to keep it moving until we start seeing the same people come again twice,
Let's rewind to that first in-store. Was that the era when they did the after hours up at Channel 1?
Yes. Marty Duda worked here as a record guy, and he also worked for WCMF. He had a show there. I think he just bought the time. I don't think he worked directly for him, but he bought the hour block for his show. And I guess he ran into Ozzy Osbourne that way, and then he told him, I got a television show I do every Saturday night called After Hours. Then Ozzy and Randy Rhoads did the show, and I remember him saying that Ozzy kept bringing in equipment, and the room was small, so they had to choose what they wanted in there.
Yeah, we've had Marty on the show, and he shared that whole situation that whole time, and that was really something. The first check mark of Ozzy in Rochester. So he comes back with the crew. Now, at this time, it's 1984. It's the passing of Randy Rhoads, tragically in March of 82. Yes. So he came back on Bark at the Moon with Jakey Lee and Motley Crue. They're here on the Shout at the Devil. Armen, tell us the scene, because I didn't have a chance to get into the store because I was in one of those lines that was going down the street. Because we're skipping school. It was, listeners, you could get on YouTube and look at some of this footage. But Armen, share the euphoric scene of Ozzy and the crew in January of 84 at your store.
Oh, it was out of control, and the police had those yellow and orange striped garbage cans with the police yellow tape going from garbage can to garbage around all our buildings, surrounding it, trying to protect the kids and protect anything from getting hurt, but nobody ever got hurt at our in-stores, No. And we do stuff like make the line turn for if they push, their power only goes so far. So if you turn the line a few times, it's safer, But I remember Motley Crue, one of them jumped on, we were trying to keep 25 feet because they were next to a brick wall inside the store. And, and I think it was Tommy Lee jumped on top of the table and said, come on. But the whole parking lot was like 40 foot wide and about, 60 foot length. And they all pushed, and I went down, and my friend Louie, who worked here, went down, and a security guard all hit the ground, and we lost that 25 feet. So I opened a fire door next to their table in case they had to escape quick if they suddenly got pushed.
Now, I didn't get a chance to get in there. When did you make the decision to cut the meet and greet? Was it just too many people, and we got to get these guys out of here?
Oh, we never cut it. It went on to the end.
Did it? Because I never got in there. Maybe we gave up. I was like 14. I was one of those.
Yeah. Because I saw people in line for the second time. They were coming back around again. But and I told Ozzy, these are a lot of the same, but I see some new, and he stayed, and then he said, I need a phone. I got to call Sharon. I don't know what to do. And then he called Sharon, and he had to wade through all the kids because they were in the front of the stage, and they're all grabbing him. He said, I'll be back. I got to call Sharon. Then he got her, and he said, I'm here at House of Guitars. What's supposed to happen next? And we told him we'd take him to the venue if he wants. But Sharon said, no, Ozzy, just sit there and be polite and relax, because the limo's on its way. It's going right to House of Guitars now to pick you up. So don't worry about anything.
Two questions. Was Ozzy well behaved? Was he drinking, partying? And what about Motley Crue? How crazy were they? Were they misbehaving at all?
Motley Crue jumped on the table. They lost their protection there. We had 25 feet. And, the people that were signing, we let in before the 25 feet. Now, we had a gap on purpose because they're against a concrete wall and we didn't want them to get squashed. So we had that to protect them, but then I opened the fire door for them to escape. I also started shooting pictures of them. And then the manager was, road manager. He's chasing me around the store and said, they don't have makeup. You can't shoot pictures. But I kept shooting pictures of them anyways, going backwards. And I said, okay, I'll stop. And I kept shooting. And then later years, they called and asked if they could use those pictures because they're young and handsome back then. They're kids.
Yeah, right. What about when Ozzy came back 3 or 4 years later with Zach? Now he's a huge star. This was pre reality show. He's always been cool with you guys. Tell us about that situation.
We always got along with Ozzy all the time because he was just wide open. He showed all his emotion, but he always talked straight. I mean, I got along with him great, and so did, and all the fans knew it too. He talked to you, and he'd ask questions to the fans, and they'd answer it. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was conversing. He wasn't playing like a big star or anything. He was talking and interested in all of them. Dimebag Darrell was the same way. God bless him, but he always loved his fans first.
Sure,
and,
sure.
And Ozzy was the same way. So, he would not, that's why I say he wouldn't have walked out on the thing. He stayed until, it was obvious they were all repeats, and he had to go for sound check. But he never stormed out of there on any of the three. You might have been kind of later, coming in later after some of them might have even left already. But, he was always in a good mood and always had to call Sharon. He felt safe with her because he didn't know what was going on half the time. But and I remember the kids, it was kind of funny. They're calling their parents on the phone, They're saying, Mom, I just met Ozzy and he's here at the House of Guitars and now he's my friend. You got to buy a ticket. My friends are all buying tickets for the concert tonight. And I hear them yelling on the other end, why ain't you in school? It's 1:00 in the afternoon. You skip school. And he goes, all the kids skip school. But Mom, I got to go. I know Ozzy. I know him now.
That's
it's like
awesome.
Crazy.
When was the last time you had a chance to talk with Ozzy?
Pardon?
When was the last time you talked to Ozzy? Probably.
I didn't talk to him after the in stores, but I know when People Magazine did a story on us, he called them back himself. They wanted a list of stars that appeared at House of Guitars. And, he didn't send his roadies or he didn't have the manager call. He actually called himself. And I thought that was very nice of him because he don't owe us anything. He filled our store with people. I also remember that the show sold out right during the in-stores all 3 times. And I'd say, Ozzy, you just sold out Rochester, New York. And he'd jump in the air with his fingers going and he'd yell to the crowd, I sold out Rochester, New York. And they all cheered for him. They're all happy. That was Ozzy, He was loose and wild.
Loose and wild. And that leads me to my last question. If there's one misconception that the general public has about Ozzy Osbourne that you could debunk, what would it be?
I don't know. He never bit. He didn't know it was a real bat when they threw it at him. He thought it was a rubber bat. And he said, I didn't think, where did he get a real bat? And he said he just bit it, and then threw it, but he knew something was wrong when he bit it. And then, but he said, I had no idea that they were going to throw a real bat, but it probably did his career, a lot of good because he got huge right then. He was in all the papers as he bit a bat,
Yeah, and then
then they thought he was real crazy,
Yeah,
he said, I wouldn't have bit a real bat,
Well, we lost a great one, and it's awesome how our House of Guitars has an integral part of the early Ozzy years. Everything from the after hours to these in-store appearances. So
I remember too, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
I remember he lived next door to Pat Boone in California, and they go to each other's barbecues and got along because Pat has a 50 sense of humor. He's always mocking himself and other people, but he's fun. He did April Love and Love Letters in the Sand and Speedy Gonzales, but they got along. And then he put out that No More Mr. Nice Guy with the leather on and did a Black Sabbath song on it and stuff. Then he was a minister then, and he got in trouble with his congregation. Then his daughter did You Light Up My Life, Debbie Boone.
Yeah. Well, no, Pat did a whole metal album. It was some Ozzy. I think he did like a Pat Boone version of Enter Sandman by Metallica and some others. So maybe that Ozzy being neighbors influenced him. So well, again,
they went to each other's barbecues all the time, he said.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for the House of Guitars. It's we're global. I'm going to tell you something, Armen. We speak with global stars all the time, and we always end the interview with share something about the House of Guitars or share something about Rochester. It always goes back to the Hog, always, and it's
oh, cool. Thank you for saying that, man.
It's God's honest truth. And I remember years ago, my sons, they're in their late 20s now. We would go to the House of Guitars. And I remember one time my son Tommy had to be 7 years old. There he was speaking with you in the back. Cool. And I'm like, yeah, this is where we grew up, the House of Guitars. So
I think the kids keep me young, talking to them because they're honest and excited about real things.
Yeah, you're a treasure, sir, and we never take the Hog for granted. So again, Armen Shaw, president of the Great House of Guitars, go online, check it out. They do mail orders. If you're in Rochester, get up there and tell them Vertimatic from Metal Mayhem ROC sent you.
It's a free rock and roll museum.
It is. Have a great day, and we'll talk with you soon, bud.
Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome. All right, that last little part of the show, Metal Walt had a chance to catch up with some of the Metal Mayhem ROC team members and fans for a little roundtable and sharing some memories. Walt, this one's cool. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it now, but this is one of our staff members, Bill the Rager. He had an amazing concert experience early on, and then some of my friends come on, and we share war stories of seeing Ozzy in the New Jersey, New York City area, and some of the antics that went down both inside the arenas and outside the stadium. Personal stories. These are where the memories are made. And I learned a few things that I didn't even know about, my friends, but these are funny, funny stories. I was laughing out loud to myself, and my buddies and I and Bill were just having an awesome time. So I think any fan that's seen Ozzy through the years will very much relate to this section.
Yeah, when I was editing this and watching that, I was really enjoying it. Now, I go back with Bill. We've been friends forever. But your friend George, his stories, and then your neighbor, Carmen, is that his name? He was, his story was cool. So you're right. This is great insight, fly on the wall kind of stuff, and I enjoy it. But hope you enjoy it. We hope you enjoy this episode. It's our way of saluting Ozzy. Means something to all of us in different ways, but we just wanted to give back. So thank you for listening. And again, if you enjoy what we're doing, subscribe to the pod and share this with your friends. For my co-host, Metal Walt, I'm the Vertimatic, and we are Metal Mayhem ROC.
So we welcome to the show now Metal Mayhem ROC correspondent Bill the Rager. My childhood friend George Herman, he's a drummer in an Iron Maiden tribute band Morgan's Well, and my next door neighbor in East Hanover, New Jersey, Carmine Fusco. Guys, what's up?
How you doing?
How you doing?
We're good. We're all good, man. Hey, listen, we're all big Ozzy fans, and this is kind of a sad day, but it's also a good day because we want to celebrate and go back in time and talk about some of our favorite memories of Ozzy. So, Bill, you're one of these guys that are in rare company that you actually saw Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, correct?
I did.
Oh, wow.
Yes. In fact, I've seen Ozzy many times at solo and with Black Sabbath, but that was my first time seeing him. It was in Rochester, New York on April 29th, 1981. And it was the day after when they did the only pro live footage of Randy in the studio. I'm sure you guys have seen that. It was on a show called After Hours. And anyway, backstory real quick. That show, it was in a 3,000 seats theater. It's like a nice old theater, not really made for heavy metals, for orchestras and plays and stuff like that. And anyway, when the show was announced, my brother went right to the record theater and got a ticket, got in line and got a ticket, but he only got one ticket. And he comes home and he's like, dude, I got a ticket to the show, but it's sold out. And I was like, oh man, why didn't you get me one? And he's like, I only had $10, so that's all I could get was one ticket. All right. So anyway, leading up to the show, I'm thinking I'm bumming, I'm not going because it's sold out and I can't afford to go pay a scalper. I was only 14 at the time. So anyway, then my brother comes up to me a couple days before the show and he's like, hey, listen, every other weekend we used to work for my parents. They had a cheesecake factory and my cheap ass stepfather wouldn't let us both work at the same time. So it was like every other weekend and it was coming up on my weekend, but my brother needed cash and he was like, hey, dude, I'll give you my Ozzy ticket if you let me work this weekend. And I was like, hell yes. So there I was. I'm going to the show. Day of the show, it's like 4 o'clock, and I tell my mom, I'm like, hey, I'm going to a concert tonight. She goes, the hell you are. She goes, you're failing every class and your grades are terrible, so you're not going. And I was like, no way, I'm going. I'm sorry, mom, but I'm going. She's like, you're not going. She grabs a hold of me and I literally ripped my arm away and I ran out the door and ran down the street and got on a bus and went to the show. And I got grounded for 2 months for that, but I deserved it. But it was worth it because this show was sick, man. I mean, it was I'm very fortunate to have seen Randy Rhoads. And real quick, the show was supposed to be Motorhead opening, but apparently the night before they partied so hard that Lemmy couldn't perform that night. So it was a rare moment for Lemmy because he usually can power through. And we had no idea. I'm thinking, cool, I'm going to get to see Motorhead too, because I just got into them right before the show. And this dude next to me is like, hey, Motorhead's not playing tonight. And I'm like, what? Like, come on, man. So anyway, this band comes out and I couldn't even tell you what they sounded like because all of a sudden the crowd just erupted. It started, people were throwing stuff and chanting Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy over and over again. It was so loud that you couldn't even hear the band. And I don't know, they look kind of like a new wave band, to be honest with you, but they were called the Iron City House Rockers. Unfortunately for them, they only got through about 1.5 songs and then literally got yanked off the stage.
But Bill, what do you remember from the show itself? Like the interaction between Ozzy and Randy, and just what do you remember? I mean, this is like 53 years ago, 54 years ago,
44 years ago.
44 years ago. There you go.
It was, I mean, it was surreal, to be honest with you. Like, Ozzy had the blue shirt with the white fringes and the white pants. And I don't remember exactly what Randy was wearing, but he had the white Les Paul he played mostly. And then he had the Flying V with the polka dots, of course. And then I remember he had white Marshalls. His cabinets were white. And he was phenomenal. I mean, the thing about Randy was he didn't just play, he improvised a lot. So, he, as you can hear on any live recording of him, he doesn't play exact, but he plays close to what's on in the studio. But he was phenomenal. And I remember Rudy Sarzo being pretty awesome too, but he fell down that night. In fact, in his book, he talks about playing in Rochester, and he was all hungover from hanging out with Lemmy and Ozzy and drinking, and he was pretty hungover. So, but he played fine. In fact, they all sounded great. I mean, it was an amazing show. I went all by myself. I didn't see anyone I knew there, even though I'm sure a couple of my friends were there if I remember. But it was an experience. And just that crowd at the beginning before Ozzy came on, it was insane, man. I thought somebody was going to get hurt. It was so bad.
So that's an awesome story, Bill. This is an awesome story. I mean, I'm sure you joked about it with your mom later on, but it was well worth the being grounded for 2 months, right?
Yeah. The only regret is that I did miss Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and Whitesnake. I missed that because she wouldn't let me go to concerts until I got out of summer school and was on my way to high school. So That would be my only regret. But I if I would have had to pick one of the two shows, I would have picked the Ozzy show anyway. And
Wow.
you know, yeah. And if you guys ever want to check that show out, there's actually a simulcast of it on YouTube from I think it was WCMF 96.5 WCMF, which was a FM station in Rochester.
So I wanted to ask, is that the one that I see the videos of? Because the clothing you're describing is the exact clothing in that video, and I thought that was at some radio place in Buffalo at the time.
No, that was the day before. It was the same. It was in the same town in Rochester, but that was the day before, and they recorded that in a studio at Channel 31 Studios.
Yeah, just so when you watch that, when Randy goes into his solo on Crazy Train, they put the camera on Rudy, and I'm like, doesn't this guy know the camera's in the wrong place? You should be on the lead guitarist.
No, what an idiot! I know. I remember saying the same thing.
That I am actually pretty envious because that is absolutely outrageous. I mean, you didn't know back then that Randy was going to not be around too long. I mean, you know, so it's like a home run for you. The only thing that I can compare to, and it's actually an Ozzy story, but the very first time I saw Ozzy, and this is not my story, was in April of '86, my senior year in high school, and Metallica opened up for him, and I got to see Cliff Burton play for Metallica. They opened up. I felt like, you know, they were just like, I actually went to that concert more looking to listen to Metallica, even though I was a huge Ozzy fan. But actually mine doesn't come close to yours. To see Randy is like, you know,
I saw that tour as well. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that was my third time seeing Ozzy. Yep.
Yeah. That's the holy grail.
Carmen and George, I think you guys were at the same show. So if you're talking about the Brendan
Byrne, mine was in New Jersey at Brendan Byrne Arena. So
well, so was his. So you guys were at the same show.
Oh, really?
And there's the show.
Bring it up. That's the show where Ozzy, the fans started ripping the seats and throwing them out, and like Ozzy got banned from Brendan Byrne Arena.
You're stealing my story.
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but this is great that you guys were there together. This is great. Go ahead, George. I mean, tell the story. But how awesome is this? You guys are meeting together, and you were there.
To what Bill was saying, you know, you got one ticket. I'm looking at the ad. I'm like, and I try to remember, how the hell did I get this ticket? And back then, you had to actually go. No, you had to go out. I think everybody remembers I had to go out and actually get the tickets. But the tickets here were sold at like Ticketmaster outlets, Record World, and James Way stores for $16.50 back then. And I don't know how I got the ticket, but I did get one ticket because I knew nobody at that time. Lance, you weren't even a metalhead yet, but I knew nobody.
I was still in my classic rock phase.
Yeah, you were in your classic rock phase. I was like the standout in high school, loving the Metallica, the Maiden, all that great stuff, the Ozzy's, Sabbath stuff. And not so much Sabbath, more Ozzy actually. And so I remember my mother, I had my little leather jacket. She just was, God bless her soul, she just dropped me off on Route 3 next to the arena, and you just kind of walk into the stadium. Metallica and this is my first metal show, so it's, you know, think about, you know, setting the expectations, and Metallica comes out and just blows it away. You know, I was like up close, relatively on the side, seeing Cliff Burton there, just blasting away, getting the crowd all riled up. Then Ozzy comes out, and I if I recall, he came down in a big throne on the intro scene, and then it just starts getting crazy, and he just starts getting the crowd riled up with his traditional stuff. Let's go crazy, right? And then someone throws. It's about 3 songs in, and someone throws a seat cushion, because at that time there was no general admission. It was seats on the floor, remember? And someone takes the seat cushion and throws it up on stage. Ozzy takes this seat cushion and throws it back. Holy crap. At that point in time, it's just seat cushions all over the place, just running, stuff dropping. I hear bombs in the bathroom. In the bathrooms, people are lighting off M80s. It's just bedlam with stuff like, and I'm thinking, this is awesome. This is the most normal thing. If this is what metal shows are like, this is the best thing in the world. And it was just such an amazing event. And that's the first time I experienced such loudness and being deaf for like 3 days after. I mean, it was just intense. And I thought this was normal. And then I go to the hallway, call up on a payphone. Hey, Mom, can you come pick me up? And I just walk my way over to Route 3 and just wait while she just comes in the highway and picks me up. And she goes, how was it? And she goes, wow, really, really cool, Mom. But what you realize is there was shit happening all over the stadium. There was like the fences were torn down. Outside was just like a disaster after the show was over. Everybody was just so riled up from the show because Metallica came out, Ozzy came out. I mean, just the intensity of all. And then that led to a series of events in the Brendan Byrne Arena for about a year and a half after that. And I couldn't remember if there was a car caught on fire at the Ozzy show or if it was a Maiden show. So I did a little research this morning, and it was the Maiden show a little bit later on where I think it was Frank Bellows' car that got turned over and caught, and they like lit 2 cars on fire and all this chaos that ensued. But there was a series of shows between the Brendan Byrne and Madison Square Garden after this Ozzy show that where people were throwing M80s at the stage. Stuff was getting torn up on a regular basis. And, you know, this lasted for about a year and a half after that show. So this show set like this crazy precedence for about a year and a half with a lot of those metal acts. And here I am thinking this is normal. This is the best thing in the world. And then you come to find out the next day in the paper, you know, he got charged like $80,000. Ozzy got charged like $80,000 a fine and was prevented from playing back in the arena for like 2 years or something like that. Then he came back in like 88 again. And played that.
Yeah, totally remember the memory of that. Totally remember that. So, yeah, George, you said you also had a memory of something else that your mother had an experience with Ozzy?
So I'm from Poland, right? I was born in Poland, and I was born during communism time. And this is like the best story ever. So during communism, we were here in the States, and we were always making care package for my family over in Poland. And like, you sent peanut butter and teas and chocolates, and, and the communists would take half the packages and then off it goes. And we'd go like every couple of years, we'd go there for the summer to be with family. And I remember one year my mother brought a whole bunch of contraband. She was trying to get through customs through the communist channels. Like they were in customs, and, you got the AK-47 guys and all lined up. And I had my small suitcase of cassette cases of metal music. And I think I was like about 14 or 15. And the guy tells me to open up my case, and he goes, "Oh, Ozzy," in a Russian Polish accent. And my mother goes, "You like?" And he goes, "I like very much." And she goes, "You can have." And I'm like, "Ma, what are you doing?" She's like kicking me. "Shut up." And it was like, and she goes, and I didn't understand what she was doing. And she was bribing this customs guy so she can get all this contraband through to feed the family, And it's like, he goes, "Ozzy." And then what happens after that? Where does Metallica play after that? That big Russian show, right? Remember that huge show in Russia where there's like 1 million people? These people in Europe at that time, Eastern Europe, Russia, they were clamoring, dying. One of the largest concerts ever was Ozzy. And so like the guy's like, "Oh my God, Ozzy, I want Ozzy," and that allowed us to bring all this contraband through. So, that was like my mother should have taken, like, "What are you doing to my stuff? Shut up."
It was well worth it. Yeah, and you're referring to as the Moscow Peace Festival that I think occurred in 1989 or somewhere around that time.
Yeah, so metal was big in the 80s, right? But it wasn't breaking through in the Eastern Bloc countries. And then when it finally did break through in the mid 80s and all these bands came in, the kids were just clamoring for this stuff. They wanted it so bad. And, Ozzy that's a little Ozzy side story, but.
Well, George and I have a great story. We saw Ozzy and Sabbath probably so many times together or maybe separate in the arena. But the one that comes to mind is when Sabbath reunited for the tour in 1999. They came through in February of 99 with Pantera, and they played the Brendan Byrne Arena. So there was a couple of guys, and for those that know the New York City area, at the time you parked your car at Giant Stadium and you walked over the tunnel because it was easier to get out later on. And I believe the parking on the other side was cheaper. It might have been $10 at the arena, $5 at the stadium. So here we are walking across, and we had a couple beers in us. And, typically everybody's banging on us. Yeah, Mickey's Big Mouth, by the way, we were drinking, but everybody's banging on the metal things of the barrier, and everybody's going crazy. And this happened at every show. Yet our buddy Paulie takes his arm, and as he's walking down the corridor, he swipes all these bottles off, and they smash all over the ground, and everybody's going, "Fuck yeah!" And sure enough, what happens? A state trooper sees it. And shit, you guys not. George and I get taken into the state trooper's car at the bottom of the ramp. They void Paulie's ticket. He never got into the show. He goes back to the car and drinks. I threw him the car keys. We get escorted into the underbelly of the arena. I'm going, what the fuck is going to happen here? We're like, are we going to get, like, my brother works there? Like, what's going to happen here? We bypassed all the security, go right in. And our poor buddy sat out in the parking lot. So we see the show, and on top of it being a great show, one of the funniest parts was at the end where we're leaving and we're watching all the confetti come down, and we're down at the first row right by the lower tier, hanging over the hockey boards. And, because we had a few in us, Vinny Appice walks by. And if people don't remember, Vinny Appice was actually the spare drummer for that tour because they were worried about Bill Ward having a heart attack, and they brought him as a backup option. And Vinny walks by us, and he just looks at us and he goes, "You guys okay? you guys all right?" And we were like, yeah, we're fine. He's like, all right. And he kind of laughed and backpedaled. And that was just a good memory.
Lance, I'll say Lance is missing one part. I had a little bit too much to drink. Not having eaten all day at work, trying to get through my job as fast as possible so I can get down to the show. And I missed some of it.
That's all right. That's all in the good metal spirit. If you don't have at least one of those stories, you haven't done a metal show. But Carmine, I want to give you your chance to tell your story. But here's another funny connection. Whereas George and Carmine were at the Meadowlands together, unbeknownst to each other in '86. Carmen and I were at the same show in 1992 at the Paramount, which was the old Felt Forum in New York City. It was the early part of the No More Tears tour, where the album may have not even been out yet or whatever, but they did these couple of shows with Prong. And all I remember from that show was this.
I was at that show.
So you were at that show? So you were at that show too? You and I were probably together.
I was looking at my tickets. I was at that show.
See that?
Was it Prong or Primus?
No, Prong.
Prong.
You said 1992?
Prong. Yeah,
it was January 92.
Now, Carmine, do you remember the guy jumping on stage and at the end grabbing Ozzy?
Yes. That show the show was a good show. I wasn't crazy about the theater, but my story is just like an insane, just the way it happened. I don't know if you know, but that show was actually supposed to take place in October, but Ozzy broke his arm and they postponed it till January. So, I mean, do you want me to go into it now?
Yeah, tell the whole story.
All right. So about a year before that, I was in college, and my roommate Joey had some of his friends from his hometown come visit us on the weekend. And one of the kids was this kid, Michael, who was a little younger than us. And we got him into like the bars in college, and he was like underage, and, he's hanging out. So he used to like almost, I don't want to say every weekend, but he seemed to always come down to our condo all the time. There's this younger kid always hanging out. So I guess he felt like I got to bring something to the table because I'm staying at these guys' house. So, he used to bring his electric guitar, and he would play electric guitar and stuff. And he says one day to us, "Do you know who my guitar teacher was?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea." He goes, "Zach Wilde." And it kind of clicked because he's from Marlboro and Zach's from Freehold. I'm like, it's possible. But we were like the type of guys that like, "Nah, you didn't know him. You really didn't know him." He's like, no. Next time Ozzy comes around, we'll go to a show. I'll get us backstage passes. So we're like, yeah, sure. So from when the show got canceled to when it actually went in January, there were two things that happened that year. One, Zach's mother died. She handled all his like fan club stuff. So she handled the backstage passes. So she passed those away. And then something happens to another friend of ours from New Jersey. He was a real hardcore rocker. He was a drummer, knew how to do double bass. If this kid had ever like met the right people, he'd be in a rock and roll band, 100%. The kid's name is Mitchell. So he had played at Birch Hill with his band, and they all went out partying afterwards. And then on his way home, he had two of his buddies in the back seat of his car and his girlfriend in the front seat of his car. Well, he got into an altercation with another bunch of guys in another car because they were laughing because he had like long hair. He was a rocker. So after the altercation, they get back in the car and they're driving. As that other car passes them, this is honest to God, start shooting into the car. They hit the two kids in the back, but nothing crazy. It was just, they just got, but Mitchell ended up with a bullet hole in his back and became paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So me and my friend Joey, who I was roommates with the year before in college, we were going to this show with Mike, and we were like, you know what? We need to do something for Mitchell. So we got a jean jacket. We knew a kid who could paint. He painted the Blizzard of Oz album cover on it. And we were going to bring it to the show and get Ozzy to sign the jacket and give it to him. It's a pretty cool gift, I thought,
Yeah.
So we go to the show and we go to the area where you're supposed to ask for your backstage passes. And sure enough, Michael's telling the guy, and we're not on the list. Not on the list. So we leave, go across the street, have a beer at a bar. There was like an eatery right there. So we're having beer. Then we're like, let's go back. He's like, let's go back. Maybe it's a different security guard. He'll listen to me. We go back there. Same thing. You guys aren't on the list. You got to leave. So we leave. So we go back. Now the opening band is starting to play. We're like, hey, let's go in. It's not going to work out. We're not getting backstage. Michael's like, no, we're doing this. I got to try one more time. So we go in there. He starts talking. You could see these security guards in this like vestibule, like kind of like upset with us. Like, you guys have been back 3 times. You guys are not getting, if you're a bunch of girls, maybe, but you're a bunch of dudes. You're not getting backstage. As he's talking to the security guard, spieling his whole story, this woman walks in with like shopping bags, like full with shopping bags. She walks up to the table, puts down the bag, signs a piece of paper, looks over and says, Michael? He looks over to her, goes, Barbara Ann? She goes, he starts telling the story. She goes, don't worry, I'm going to get Zach out here in 1 minute. She goes backstage. Now we're like, see, I told you we knew him. We told you we knew him. Zach, now it's January. Zach comes running out wearing jeans, no shoes, no socks, no shirt. Starts putting backstage passes on us. So now we run back into the backstage area, and Zach's like, you got to go that way to see the show. So we go see the show. After the show, we go backstage. We see Zach. Zach takes us everywhere. He was extremely, extremely courteous. Showed us like the drum kit, all his guitars, everything. Brought us to the opening band, and they were like in a room with like nobody in there. And then finally we're like, where's Ozzy? Where's Ozzy? He's like, oh, after the show, Ozzy needs some time. They got to get him prepared. So sure enough, we're in this back room. It's filled with people. All of a sudden you start hearing commotion, like a little bit of commotion. It's like, yo, Ozzy's coming. So I felt like they wheeled Ozzy in. He was in a long trench coat. He had these round blue glasses on that, like bright blue. All of a sudden, everybody's partying. It's like the sea is partying, right? Ozzy comes in, and it's me and my friend Joey. Joey's holding the jacket, like straight towards us. It was like perfectly set. My buddy Joey's like, Ozzy, you have to give me a favor. You have to do me a favor. Ozzy looks straight at him with that English accent and goes to him, don't ask me to suck your dick. Just like that. The whole place erupts in laughter. Like, oh my God, what just happened here? Sure enough, Ozzy took the coat. We told him the story. He's like, Mitchell, keep your head up. Ozzy signed it. It was like the greatest moment, but the whole place just knew us as the guys that wanted Ozzy to suck his dick. And it was like insane. But, from a tragedy moment with Mitchell and everything, and we were able to give him that coat. I ended up he went in rehab and all that. 5 years later, I see him at my friend Joey's engagement party. And I'm like, yo, what did you ever do with that jacket? And he's like, I have that thing in a frame sitting over my bed. I was like, all right, at least it at least it went to good use, So that's my Ozzy story. I got to meet him. He was extremely generous. He was kind, but funny at the same time.
Well, that's an amazing story, Carmen. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think this just goes for the testament of Ozzy and Sabbath and metal music as a whole. I mean, just look what it does. It makes such memories that here it is 30, 40 years later, we're talking about things like it was yesterday, smiling, laughing. And exactly this is what it's all about. It's the music, it's the camaraderie, it's going to shows together and connecting. So, guys, I really appreciate it. And I thank you for your time today.
It's like Ozzy's always been there, right? It's always like you said, whether it's like an Ozfest tour or he's touring solo or he's getting back together with Sabbath. Like one of the coolest shows I ever remember seeing was out at that Jones Beach, man. Like I think it was a Sabbath show and it was Slayer opening. And I remember there was like a huge thunderstorm out in the bay there, and Ozzy's playing War Pigs. And I'm thinking, man, how metal would this be? Like, there's lightning going on and a thunderstorm, and you get killed at an Ozzy show listening to War Pigs, like that. There's no more metal than that. Like, I think it's cool you guys are doing this little tribute. I wish we had more time, but I know you got so many people that you want to talk to and get in on this topic. I feel, privileged that you guys asked me to come in and, as one of the original Metal Mayhem ROC founders, I don't want to be too much of a stranger as we move forward, but no, it's just cool I love these conversations, man, because we all have these incredible memories. And like I said, the music's just always with us. And, but I'm also bummed, man, it's really sad when we lose our legends,
Exactly. And it seems like more guys are retiring and passing on and, what can you do but appreciate, having them when you have them, and just be grateful when you look back and say, did I do everything I could to support this artist and see them and buy their records? And I think we did. But Mark, you're a lifer like me and all of us. And listen, we just got to appreciate and enjoy these conversations while we have. So I appreciate 100%. You coming on.
All right, man. Well, keep the metal flowing, and we got to hit a show soon. And hopefully get back on one time. And we also got to inspire that next generation, Metal Walt. We got to find the young, hungry, the next kick-ass Motley Crue and Ozzy's of the world. They're out there. We just got to get them out there.
We're doing our best at Metal Mayhem ROC to find those and spotlight those guys. So there's a lot of good stuff out there.
All right, brother. Say hi to Vertomatic for me.
All right, Mark. See you.
Later, dude.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.